Is there a big story in this country than housing right now, or lack thereof? Housing is on the top of so many people's lists when it comes to things they want to see government tackle. Here in Quebec, we're no different than the rest of Canada. We've had some stories of late with the housing crisis. Now, Quebec's housing minister came under fire last week for taking a meeting with a former business partner. That meeting is now under investigation by the ethics commissioner. Now it has been revealed that this was not the only business meeting she had with a former business partner. On March 14th, France-Hélène Duranceau, that's the housing minister, attended a lobbying event where she was seen talking to Philippe Marsan, a former business partner and someone who had a mandate to lobby her ministry only a few months prior. Let's take a look at the housing minister and the housing crisis with Zachary Kamel, a freelance reporter who has been covering this story for both Ricochet and Pivot. Zachary, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell our listeners, in the reporting that you've done and what you've uncovered, what are the things that stand out to you that everyone should be concerned about?
Sure. So, when Minister Duranceau introduced her bill, her housing legislation, Bill 31, earlier this month, I decided to just take a peek into her disclosure with the Ethics Commission. And I noticed that there were several real estate companies and investment trusts that were listed on her disclosure. And so, I thought that was concerning, considering she's the housing minister. It seemed like a direct conflict of interest.
And you brought up Bill 31 here. This is what has caused so much debate over some of the things that are being proposed here. When you look at Bill 31 and you look at her business dealings, do you see connections here with, the direction the bill is going and how it's beneficial to landlords and property owners?
So, the bill has been criticized by both community groups and by property owner groups, landlord groups. It's been criticized on both sides. However, the strongest criticism has definitely been from community groups because the bill is attempting to end lease transfers in Quebec. And lease transfers, which, it's been something that's been used in Quebec by tenants for decades. It's seen as one of the last methods for maintaining affordable rent in the province.
And is there a concern? I guess what the ethics commissioner will be looking at is the concern that in some of these meetings with former business partners, the lobbying has been done for measures like this.
I'm not exactly sure. So the request for the investigation was submitted by Liberal MNA Duraji after reading my reporting, I've been told. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the ethics commissioner will be reinvestigating Duranceau's connections to both, I'm assuming Annie Lemire, her former business partner, and that lobbying meeting, which allegedly happened in December, shortly following her appointment.
We actually spoke to Monsef Deraji from the Liberals last week on this program after he filed that ethics complaint to the ethics commissioner. What else, Zachary, when it comes to Quebec's housing minister from her past, might suggest that she's tilted in one direction when it comes to the housing debate?
Right. Well, so Minister Duranceau, up until her appointment, was a real estate agent. She claims that it was mostly in commercial real estate, but we can see that in 2019, so she flipped a home. So she bought a duplex with Annie Lemire in Montreal for $500,000, and then she converted that duplex into luxury condos, five condos, which sold for as much as $800,000. So this is someone who's directly profited off of real estate flips. And I think that's a controversial practice, especially as so many people claim that we are currently in a housing crisis. And so I think that as soon as you have financial interests mixing with, what you're appointed to oversee as a politician, that's a clear conflict of interest. And it's definitely raises questions, I think, among a lot of Quebecers.
We're with Zachary Kamel, a freelance reporter who has been covering the housing crisis in both the Ricochet and Pivot. So, Zachary, what are you hearing from the advocates, the community advocates, the housing advocates here? What do they think the solutions are in all of this? Let's put the housing minister aside for the moment here. What are the solutions from their perspective?
Right. Well, I can't really talk too much about solutions, but as far as when it comes to the lease transfer and Bill 31, they're furious, and they see the modification of that, the ending of lease transfers in Quebec as a historic setback for tenants' rights, and that's basically the last thing keeping rents affordable in the province. So I definitely have heard a lot of people speak of a rent registry. So that would be, a database that's maintained by the government, which would have every rent in the province logged. And therefore, I think it's at least one step to ensuring that rents don't go up more than the advised increase by the Tribunal Administratif du Logement.
Yeah, and Zachary, what's interesting is, I see this when I log on to Facebook. I hear it from people that, they're in a place, and when they want to leave, they, sometimes they'll do things that, maybe are in ethical gray zones too, where they have a great rent, let's say, and before they leave that apartment with the great rent, they'll let it be known, hey, I'll transfer you my lease for a payment. Like, give me a few bucks and I'll transfer you the lease. Or people that are doing apartment swaps with others and keeping the landlord out of the equation. Is there a balance here? Like, is there some way to balance those aspects? Because I sort of look at tenants doing things in order to make a little cash in this current system where we don't have enough housing. And then we sort of, look at landlords trying to make a buck, and we view them in a totally different light, like it's a bad thing. Like, how do you square that circle?
I mean, I don't think that's really on me to comment on.
Mm-hmm.
I know that what some tenants are definitely lease transferring their apartments, which is their right according to the code. Landlords also are offering buyouts to tenants in order to, curb the practice of lease transfer. So, for instance, they may buy the keys back for several $1,000s. But like I said, I can't really talk about solutions to the housing crisis or comment really on the practice of lease transfers or of cash for leases.
Zachary, how does this end for the housing minister here, right? You've got this investigation, but do we have any other further updates and any further reaction from her in light of your reporting?
Doesn't seem to be. Premier Legault came out twice in defense of the housing minister over the last few weeks following my reporting and then also following the announcement of the investigation. I think the ethics commissioner is going to do their job, and re-examine these links and connections and see whether or not there is a conflict of interest. And based on those results, we'll have a better understanding of what happened. But yeah, I think in general, elected officials should probably be closely examining their financial interests and whether or not there's a conflict with the job they're elected to carry out.
Going to have to leave it there, Zachary. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
That's Zachary Kamel. He's a freelance reporter. You can read his words on the housing crisis. He's been covering the story in both Ricochet and Pivot.